And welcome once again to the Pet Show. Does your bulldog have the blues? Is your Persian behaving a bit paranoid? Are your dachshund feeling a little dejected? Well, if you love your dogs and cats, and I know you adore them, but if you really love them and really want to take the time to understand their behavior, almost as well as they understand yours, maybe you're confused about why your dog or cat behaves a certain way, or maybe you just want to improve their lifestyle. Either way, you know what to do, right? Stay tuned, because once again, right here, right now, it is time for the Pet Show, America's first and only real pet psychology, pet training, pet behavior, pet lifestyle, pet love show. You get the idea. That's what this show's all about. If you want to find out why your dog behaves a certain way, if you have questions or comments, you know what this show's all about. Helping people resolve any issues they're having with their pets and any issues their pets are having with them. So hop up on my couch. Bring those furry little buddies with you, folks. It is that time once again to let the animal analyzing begin. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Warren Eckstein. This is the Pet Show, the place where we absolutely, positively, never even a doubt about it, love, adore, and as I've been stressing every week for 45 years, respect pets and animals as much as you do. By the way, if you want to join me on the Pet Show family, and you should, you're part of the show. If you have a question about your dog or cat's behavior, why are they not using a litter box? Why is your dog barking so much? Why is your dog not get along with the next door neighbor's dog? Why can't you take your dog for a walk when there's other people on the street, or there's another dog on the street, or your dog isn't housebroken, he's chewing, he's jumping, he's barking, he's digging? You get the idea. If you have a question about your dog or cat's behavior and are really interested in finding out not only why they behave that way, but how to resolve the issues in a positive way, great time to give me a call. Just a reminder that if you call into the Pet Show, I got some stuff to give away on the show as well. Today I have the brand new t-shirt. They come in many, many different colors and sizes. I got some air horns to give away, copies of my best-selling book. So if you have a question or a comment, or just want to share a great story, and stay tuned because the question of the day kind of ties into that. Great time to give me a call. The phone number here at the Pet Show, 866-870 KRLA. How can you forget that? 866-870-5752, 866-870-5752. That is the way to get through. I've allowed lots of time to answer all of your questions on today's show. Plenty of time to resolve any issues you may be having with your pets or issues they're having with you. Again, the number 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. If you have a question on the show, is probably the best way to get through them. Yeah, I do answer questions on my YouTube and my Instagram, but really the bottom line is when you call me on the show, it gives me more opportunity to kind of question you, to really delve into why your dog or why your cat may be behaving a certain way, and that helps me an awful lot. So if you have a question or a comment, or just want to share a great story about a beautiful dog or cat that you have or rescued, the phone number 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. And as I said, I do have some copies of either How to Get Your Dog or How to Get Your Cat to Do What You Want, or some other great stuff as well. Now, let me tell you what I have planned for today's show. Now, some of these topics may sound a little similar, but these are questions I've been getting over and over and over again from listeners all across the U.S. and Canada. So what we're going to take a look at today is, we call them Velcro dogs. We joke about that. My dog's on top of me all the time. He's like Velcro, sticking to me 24/7. Now, you know that dogs always like clinging to their owners. But what does it mean if all of a sudden your dog, for no apparent reason that you can figure out, starts becoming more clingy than ever before? Does that mean there's something wrong? Is your dog feeling insecure? It's so important, and I stress this every single week, that if you watch your dog or your cat's behavior every single day, you'll pick up on any little changes that may occur. And sometimes those little changes are the best resolution to resolving an issue. So I always do that. I take videos. Sometimes I'll take pictures of Molly and Willie on a regular basis just to see what they look like, just to see how they're acting, and not a bad idea for you guys to do as well. So if you have that dog that's clingy like a Velcro dog, and we all love that, but there could be more to it than you think. So we'll talk about that coming up on the show in a little bit. Again, the number 866-870-KRLA. Also, coming up on today's show, we're going to take a look at this. I adore cats. You know, cats get a bad rap. We often talk about dogs and how stressed out our dogs are. Let's face it. I would say that the majority of calls, my dog's reacting this way. He's stressed out. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. Why is he doing this? What about cats? Come on, guys. What about our cats? You know, they live with us too. They're part of our family just as much as dogs, if not even more. But what about cat stress? We never talk about it, or most people never talk about stress. And I'm going to share what every cat guardian needs to know about their dogs or their cats, but primarily cats, why they're feeling stressed and what you can do about it. And it does affect your cats, believe me, not only emotionally, but physically as well. And you know, in the 1980s, yeah, a long, long time ago, I wrote a book called Pet Aerobics, and I talked about the importance of exercise. But what happens if your dog doesn't get the exercise they need? How lack of exercise is bad, as I said, both physically and mentally for your dog. So we'll take a look at that. Now, speaking about stress, I read a story just the other day, and it makes me absolutely crazy. Why so many dogs, maybe yours, why so many dogs are now on antidepressants? It's not just people who need those help, but it's our pets as well. So many more dogs than I've ever heard of before. You know, years ago when I first started, there weren't anyone using doggy depressants. They were using other stuff, but not doggy depressants. But now they're using Prozac and other things for our dogs. Why so many? It was a big report that just came out of England about how many dogs are on antidepressants and why are our dogs so depressed? You know, sometimes we look for a resolution without taking a look at the cause. Maybe it's us. Maybe it's the fact that we're on the phone 24/7. Maybe it's the fact that we're out of the house more. Maybe it's the fact that we're more stressed out. Maybe the fact that we're going a little nuts. How does that affect our dogs? And why so many on antidepressants? Great time to call me if you have a dog that's stressed out or a cat or you feel like your dog may need antidepressants. Give me a call. Phone number here, 866-870-KRLA. As always, plenty of time to answer all of your pet and animal questions. As I said, lots of great stuff to give away. So if your dog or cat is jumping, chewing, scratching, confused about the litter box, not housebroken, doesn't get along with other dogs, hates people, or humps everything in sight, give me a call, 866-870-5752, 866-870-KRLA. You know, there was a post this week. Someone thought that I moved back to Santa Monica. Well, I left Santa Monica a little over a year ago, and I'm living in Arizona now. So for those people that still think I'm living in Santa Monica, no, I'm living in Arizona, where it's going to be like 100 degrees next week. But again, people say, Warren, how can you possibly live when it's so hot? Hear me out. Hear me out. No different than when I was in L.A. Here's why. I have air conditioning in the house. I have air conditioning in my car. And as far as I know, Costco has air conditioning, and so does Ralph's. That's all I need. That's all I need. The only time I get hot is when I'm pumping gas on my car. Everything is air conditioned. The heat really doesn't bother me that much. I can always go for a little swim as well. Again, the number here at the Pet Show, 866-870-KRLA. So the reason I brought up the nostalgia is in my little office, and I'm broadcasting from my home, in my little office, I have photographs and pictures and books of all the hundreds of pets I've lived with over the years. And I loved every single one of them. I adored every single one of them. But I wanted to ask this question. I've asked this before, but I want to really get your take on it. I know you love the dogs and cats you have right now. I know you loved every dog and cat you ever had in your life, right? Of course we did. But do you remember your first pet? Was it a dog, a cat? When I was growing up, everyone had parakeets, cockatiels. Maybe you grew up in a rural area, you had a horse or a sheep or a goat or a cow. All amazing animals. But do you remember your first pet? And if you do remember your first pet, I'd love to hear from you this. Number one, what was your relationship when you were in school as a kid and you got into trouble? Here I am. Or you did something wrong or your ears were dirty. I remember one teacher saying, Warren, when you growing potatoes out of your ears? The one thing in life when you're growing up, and especially those years when you're young, is your dog or cat. They could care less about the potatoes growing out of my ears. They could care less that I got a C minus in math or a D in this subject. They could care less. They just were there. And I think that's what's so important. I think that so many kids that have grown up and had a dog or cat or whatever pet they had in their early life, what a difference it's made. I really think it's taught us compassion, respect, and very often kids have a lot of secrets. I know when I was growing up, man, I had more secrets than I ever wanted to share. But it was always safe. It was always safe telling those secrets to your dog or cat. They never squealed on you. They never ratted you out. It was always safe. One of the things I admired about living with them. So that's the question of the day. I'd love to hear from you guys. Give me a call, 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. I'd love to hear about your first pet you lived with, or maybe it's the first pet that you had the opportunity of really getting to know. I know that, without a doubt, it changed my life. There's no question. Well, this is my career, so there's no question it changed my life. But how did your first pet make you a different person? How did they help you get through that childhood, that time when you're either always in trouble or were afraid to talk to your parents, or maybe afraid to even talk to your friends? How did your first pet? Do you remember your first pet? Was it a dog? Was it a cat? Do you even remember your first dog or cat's name? Give me a call. I'd love to hear. 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. So I'm sitting in Arizona with Denise the other day, and I'm looking at YouTube, right? And in 1970, I don't know what year it was, 1975, 1976, a call came into my office, and it was a call and here's how the call came in. I had just started training in my own business at that point, and I trained a dog for a very affluent couple on Long Island. Anyone that from Long Island and New York, there's a place called Lloyd Neck, which is the most expensive place. As a matter of fact, these people lived in the old Fairchild estate, and it was just like a castle. And I remember going there being so intimidated. Here I am, and probably wearing a ripped up fatigue shirt, my hair in a ponytail, going into this place. But anyway, I established a really great relationship. I trained their German Shepherd. I'm trying to think of the dog's name right now, and I can't. I trained their German Shepherd, stayed on their property. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful dog. When I finished, I had dinner with the people. Anyway, they called me. I guess it was about a year after I trained their dog, and said, "Warren, we're producing a movie, and there's a dog in the movie, and we'd love you to work with us." And I said, "How long is the scene with the dog, and what is the dog?" It's only about 15 to 30 seconds, but it's really intricate to the movie, because the person who the dog lives with is a real important part. So I just tuned in the other day. So I said, "Denise, did I ever tell you about Deadly Hero?" And she said, "You did, but I don't remember." So we watched the entire movie. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, and the interesting people I met on that set, which is amazing. So Deadly Hero, if you never saw that movie many, many years ago, it's an interesting New York City cop movie. You want to check it out on YouTube. Hey, the phone number here, 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. Lisa, I want to get to you, but let me take a break here first, a quick break, then we'll get to you. Great time to give me a call. Really, if you remember your first dog, give me a call, your first cat, your first horse, whatever. You have no idea how, no matter how you're feeling, you could be feeling down, depressed, not feeling well. And just thinking about my first dog. I had Hermit Crab, but my first dog was I told you about this a million times, was Smokey. Smokey was not the best looking German Shepherd, because my father bought Smokey at Macy's. I talk about that, and obviously she was a puppy mill dog back then. Speaking of puppy mills, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later as well. But anyway, the bottom line is that was my first dog, and that was the dog that made me realize the importance of animals in my life, and why they were more important than anyone I know that walked upright. By the way, that's what it says on the new t-shirts. None of my friends walk upright. Check them out at thepetshow.com. Let me take a quick break. Lisa will get back to you. If you do remember your first pet or want to talk about it, or any other question you may have, if you want to talk about what's going on with the sheltering in Los Angeles, the cutbacks, great time to give me a call. You know that law passed. I had Judy Mancuso on with me last week, and we talked about the Oreo law. My friend Casey, you all know that story, and that was passed, and I didn't even believe we have to have a law like that, but it was passed, and I talked about my experiences at Ground Zero with people that couldn't get in to see their dogs, or Katrina where they couldn't get to see their dogs or their cats, and that may change right now, and I think it will, and that's a good thing. But if you want to talk about that or any other thing you want to talk about, call me 866-870-KRLA. You realize I open this show every week by saying welcome to the Pet Show family, because that's what I consider you all part of my family. Just don't stop by for a sandwich. Quick break, then right back to your calls. I'm Warren Eckstein. This is the Pet Show. Call if you have a question or comment about your pet. The question of the day is, do you remember your first pet or your second pet, and how that dog or that cat or whatever type of pet you had helped you get through those childhood years? Not easy. I'd love to hear from you. Give me a call. And if you remember their names, better yet. My first dog was Smokey. But I'd love to hear some of the names you named your dogs many, many years ago as well. 866-870-KRLA. The phone number, 866-870-5752. You happy with your marriage? Are you happy with your income? Are you happy that you make a good living, and you're happy that your husband or wife or partner is fantastic? Well, that's important, and I admire you. However, a new study says that owning a pet improves your well-being and satisfaction with life as much as a good marriage or a high income. I'll buy that. I agree with that. So because let's face it, I've had the opportunity of training dogs for the wealthiest people in the country, in the world, as a matter of fact. I'm talking about czars and kings and queens, but I've also had the opportunity of working with people that were homeless in their dogs, or people living in seriously bad situations in their dogs as well. But the one common denominator is that their dogs or cats made them feel better. So it's true. The new study says it. How can you deny it? That if your dog, if you have a high income or you have a great marriage, that's important. But you know what? Your dog or cat can make you just as happy. 866-870-KRLA, the phone number. Let's go to my friend Lisa in L.A. Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the Pet Show.
Hello.
Hi, Lisa. How you doing today?
Doing really well. Yes.
What can I do for you?
Oh, well, I just wanted to your question, my first pet, which, like you, was a German Shepherd. Growing up, my parents always had German Shepherds, and the first one's name was Shotsi, which is sweetheart in Germany, a name I was never called when I was there. Yeah. Anyway, I was really little. My dad traveled all the time, so my mom wanted to have a big dog in the house, to protect my mom and my two sisters.
Sure.
So, but I do remember this dog. She was beautiful. She used to herd us, because we were little kids. I think I was probably 2 or 3 years old, and some of my early memories were of her picking me up and carrying me back to my mom. She must have grabbed me by my diapers. But she was a beautiful dog, and unfortunately, she perished in a house fire.
Oh, so sorry to hear that.
I know. But, that sort of set the trend for us as a family. We always had shepherds after that, and had some wonderful dogs after Shotsi.
Yeah, they are amazing. They are amazing. All the years I spent training in Germany, I kind of guess what Shotsi. The only German I know is Ein Bier bitte. That's the only German I remember. But it's interesting because my German Shepherd Smokey, as I said, my father bought the dog at Macy's, and I'm sure that it had hip problems and other problems, but I just adored this dog. This was my Rin Tin Tin. I would go in the backyard, and I was Rusty, and this was Rin Tin Tin. This is the way we took on everyone in the neighborhood. Now, the interesting part about it is that, I still maintain an online relationship with a lot of the kids I went to school with, and I grew up on Long Island, and most of them live in Florida. It was genetic. If you grew up where I grew up, you had to go to Florida. I was more of the outcast. I moved to the West Coast. But anyway, speaking to my friends, they all remembered my German Shepherd named Smokey. And you might think, why did they remember your German Shepherd named Smokey so well? Every one of them has a scar on their butt. Smokey was the dog that when you left the house, he would nip your butt. I don't care who you were. And they still talk, but they remember that. They remember that. And I think there's something so special about not having to put on any facade, not having to do anything unusual, just be yourself. And I think that's why people have such an incredible relationship with their pets as children or even as they get older as well.
Yeah, in fact, I reconnect with people through Facebook, and people always remember whatever dog it was at the time. And I'm like, how can you remember that? But, they have such big personalities. And we always, roughhoused with our dogs. So we used to get what we called Blackhawks because they bite us, but not enough to break the skin, but, just a little bit of a bruise. Yeah, they gnaw on you. And,
I'm thinking back at what you're saying now. And I think about this dog that we got, Smokey, my German Shepherd that we got at Macy's, and we brought her home, and my father always wanted a dog, but we had lived in a veterans project in Rockaway, New York, and it's really tiny. My sister and I was sharing a room. Anyway, as soon as we got our first house on Long Island, my father wanted to go out and get a dog. He was in a hurry. That's Macy's. Anyway, the interesting part about it is that dog was just such an incredible part of my life. I don't think I would be where I am right now if it wasn't for Smokey. She just one of those dogs that just everyone in the neighborhood knew her. Everyone in the neighborhood absolutely loved her, and even though she nipped them on the butts. But I could take on the world. I mean, there wasn't anything I was afraid of as long as Smokey was with me. And I think that was my first indication that that's where my career was going to go. That's why I love hearing from people, because very often the rest of their lives is kind of based on the first dog or cat that they live with.
I agree. I think it instilled in me, I don't know what it is, but dogs always come up to me. I mean, and throughout my life, a neighbor dog will come in. I've sort of adopted part-time, if you will, animals, so they gravitate towards me. But I understand them so well because I think when I was so young.
Did we lose you? Oh.
Right.
Lisa, did we at least do? Oh, okay.
They had their boundaries, and German Shepherds are great communicators. You can have conversations with them.
Oh yeah, some of the best conversations I ever had with my German Shepherds. The problem is they outsmarted me most of the time. Great call, by the way, Lisa. Let me do this. I'm going to send you. I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to send you a T-shirt that says "None of my friends walk upright." The lovely Suzette will pick up. Great call, by the way. I'd love to hear from you. If you remember your first dog or your first cat, the first pet you ever had, give me a call. 866-870-KRLA. 866-870-5752. We're going to talk about cat stress. I got a call about a week ago. Actually, was someone sent it to me on my YouTube. By the way, if you're not following me on YouTube, check out youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. And someone sent me this, and it was absolutely incredible to me about their relationship with their dog. But they were talking about their cat, and they said that they took their cat to the vet. And I love vets. In fact, I'm doing a thing for some vets here in Arizona. But anyway, the vet said, well, you know what? If the dog was depressed, there's a lot of things we can do about it, but I can't find anything physically wrong with the cat, so depression is normal for that, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I just wish the vet would have stepped back a little bit from a behavioral point of view and tried to figure out maybe why the cat was stressed out, or maybe why the cat. Cats get such a bad rap. They really, really do. The cat lady. Cats don't come when you call them. Cats are independent. Cats aren't affectionate. And I say BS to all of that. If you've never been owned by a cat, you have no idea what amazing pets they can turn out to be. 866-870-KRLA. The phone number, 866-870-5752. Let me take a break. When we come back, we're going to get to go to Carmen. Carmen has an interesting question. Carmen wants to know what happened to my hugs and kisses, and I'll tell you exactly what happened to my hugs and kisses when we come back. Plenty of time for your calls and questions. If you have a question about jumping, humping, digging, maybe your cat is depressed, give me a call. Also, why the cost of veterinary care so high? I'm going to talk about that when we come back. Let me take a quick break, then we'll get back to your phone calls. 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. That is the way to get through. Carmen, we'll get to you as soon as we come back. If you have a question or a comment or want to share a story or answer my question of the day, do you remember your first dog or cat or first pet? Great time to call me. The phone number here, 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. Let's see, I have T-shirts to give away, brand new colors, air horns, something everyone needs, a special sale going on the way, by the way. If you don't have an air horn, check out thepetshow.com. I'll talk about that later. You can save some money. My best-selling books, either How to Get Your Dog or How to Get Your Cat, calming disc. Lots of great stuff to give away on the show as well. Again, the number, 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. But let me thank all my people on YouTube. If you want to ask a question on YouTube, feel free. I'll take some questions from there. Just remember, if you're not subscribing to my YouTube channel, why? Let me tell you, and I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, I'm going to be adding and doing a lot more on YouTube. So check out youtube.com/Warren Eckstein, youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. Subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and you'll get all the latest information, including any shows that you missed. They're archived there, and some information that I talk about here on the show. And sometimes, I run out of time, so it'll be up on YouTube. Check out youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. But right now, let me go to Carmen in Ventura. Hi, Carmen. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, and it's so nice to talk to you. I've been looking for the hugs and kisses. I called Amazon, and they don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
And I called Julie, the number that I last had for her, and it's not. They're not selling from there, I guess. So where do I get them?
My bad. No, you can't get them, and I'm going to tell you why you can't get them anymore.
Oh, no.
Hugs and kisses have been around for over 35 years. And they were manufactured right in Southern California, in Temecula, by the way, by a company where the CEO was a good friend. The CEO was on the air with me. I've known the CEO for years. However, he sold the company, which wouldn't have affected me, except that he sold the company to a foreign company based in Sweden, which meant I had no opportunity to talk to the CEO, no opportunity to talk to the people actually making it. And I decided, because my name and reputation was based on hugs and kisses for all these years, that I could no longer do this and jeopardize my reputation or jeopardize the health of dogs and cats, not knowing how it was being made anymore. So maybe in the next couple of weeks, I'll let you know about something that I do recommend. In the meantime, I haven't found anything as good as hugs and kisses. Sounds bragging, and I don't mean to be. But that's why hugs and kisses is no longer. If I can't speak to the CEO, if I am not guaranteed, and I can't go to the plant and see where it's made, which I used to do in Temecula, then I just can't put my name on it. I'm assuming you understand that, Carmen.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry though. I've been talking about it. Though. I'm sorry you didn't see, but I've been talking about it for a while now that we weren't going to be able to do it, and that's the reason why. And if you can, I think there might have been some. I think Walmart's even out of them now, so I don't think they're going to be available. But keep listening to the show in the next couple of weeks. If I can come up with somebody I can trust, I'm not going to manufacture them myself. But if there's a supplement company out there that's manufactured here, where I can speak to the CEO, maybe I'll bring them on the show with me. We'll take a look at that as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
So, Carmen, what type of pet do you have? What type of pet do you have?
What kind of dog do I have?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she's a mix. I think she's kind of a rat terrier, part rat terrier, and my husband thinks she's a little bit of a collie or something like that. But she's
a rat terrier.
Darling.
A rat terrier. That would be an interesting breeding. A rat terrier and a collie. Anyway, great call, by the way. Keep listening to the show, and I will definitely let you know when I'm recommending a different. But that's why. In other words, it broke my heart. 35 years. I manufactured this. I put it together. But that's the way it is. And listen, your dog's and your cat's health is much more important to me. And when I can find a company that will not make them for me, but a company that I can endorse and recommend, I will put them on the air with me. You know how careful I am putting stuff on the air with me. Hey, the phone number here, 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. That is the way to get through. I'm going to get to you. Don't go anywhere, Dennis. You got a new dog, and I'm going to get to that subject, but maybe after the next break, because I don't want to rush you at all. Interesting, though, that I thought more people would talk about the first dog or cat they had. Where's people talking, even on YouTube? Tell me about the first pet. I know that my friend Pam says the first German Shepherd was the first family dog. What was your first family dog or family cat or whatever type of pet you might have? I had hermit crabs. I had them all. Give me a call. Let me know. 866-870-KRLA. So anyway, do you notice that you're spending more money at the veterinarian's office than ever before? Why do you think that is? You know, we see the independent vets, which I go to an independent vet here in Arizona, but you see the VCA, you see not only VCA, you see BluePearl, and you see some of the other ones that are out there as well. And people wanted to know, why is veterinary care so expensive now? Well, a lot of people don't know. A new Gallup survey conducted in partnership with PetSmart Charities found that 52% of U.S. adult pet owners have forgone veterinary care in the past 12 months. They've not gone to the veterinarian in the past 12 months due to cost. Of those owners, 71% said they couldn't afford the care or they didn't believe it was worth the cost. And these pet owners didn't necessarily have limited means. According to the survey, Gallup noted that 33% of households with an income of $90,000 or more said they could not afford going to the veterinarian. So what I'm going to do is, I know that you don't realize this, but do you know how many animal hospitals are owned by the same company? I bet you don't know. You think there's VCA over here, BluePearl over here, this one over there, but you think they're different. We're going to talk about that. Let me do this. Let me take a break. When I come back, Dennis, I'm going to get to you in Norwalk, and I'm going to tell you why all of those practices, all of them, except for the independent vet, all of them are owned by private equity firms or large companies still trying to acquire more and more veterinary hospitals. We'll talk about that when we come back, because I know it's important to my listeners to get their dogs and cats to the vets. 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. Quick break, then right back to your calls. I'm Warren Eckstein. This is The Pet Show. That is an adult. I'll take those calls as well. Give me a call. Maybe you couldn't have. Maybe your parents didn't let you have a dog or a cat. Great time to give me a call. 866-870-KRLA. I do have some T-shirts to give away. I got copies of my best-selling books from Random House, either the dog or cat book. Air horns to give away. Some great items for calming discs and recovery products from my good friends over at acornpets.com. Dennis, we're going to get to you in just a minute. Before we do that, before we went to the break, I was talking about why the cost of veterinary care is so expensive. Well, a lot of people say, well, I go here, I go there. Now, there's most of these veterinary hospitals are now by private, as I said, private equity firms, large companies. Mars, we've all heard Mars, right? Milky Way candy bars, M&Ms. Mars Candy Bars keeps making acquisitions. Right now, Mars, the company Mars itself, owns VCA, BluePearl, and Banfield, and they continue buying more and more. So all of these hospitals are owned, VCA, BluePearl, and Banfield. And this is not against Mars, but I'm going to tell you, they set the prices. And from what I'm understanding, and you know how I love veterinarians, sometimes they're even indoctrinated to do this test or that test or this test or that test, which may not be totally necessary. Most vets wouldn't do that even if they work for these companies. But it's interesting that Mars is the company that owns VCA, BluePearl, and Banfield. So how do I know a little bit about Mars? If you're old enough to remember, years ago, there was a chain of pet stores called Puppy Palace. Anybody remember Puppy Palace? They were at every mall in New York, in California, and Ohio, when I was traveling around the country. Puppy Palace. Now, all of the they're not owned by Mars, and again, eventually they closed down. But at one point, Mars owned Puppy Palace. And Mars was getting all the puppies, and they had every variety of puppies back then that you could think of, from Skipperkeys to Chows. And all these puppies came in directly from the puppy mills, either in Pennsylvania at the Amish or from the South. So at that point, I was a peace officer for the League for Animal Protection on Long Island. And when I wasn't training, I would go around and see what was going on. I remember going in one day into the Puppy Palace at Roosevelt Field on Long Island, if anyone knows that. And when I walked in there as a peace officer, I went into the back, I opened the freezer, and there were 2 black bags in the freezer. And when I asked what are in the black bags, it was 2 puppies that arrived dead, delivered by UPS. Yeah, UPS delivered the puppies to them. And I said to myself at that point, this cannot go on. And I did everything in my power. I contacted every media, and eventually Puppy Palace closed down all across the country. But that also was owned by Mars. So what I'd like to know from these big companies, how many of these big companies are in for the dollars, and how many of these big companies are actually in for the love and the care of animals? The vets are, whether they work at VCA or BluePearl, I'm sure they love animals. But are they required by the companies that own them to do certain things? Well, question you got to answer. But a lot of people are avoiding going to the vet because of the cost. And the costs are going to go up. As long as so many of the hospitals are owned by the same people, the costs are not going to come down. Just my thoughts on that. Give me a call. Let me know what you think. 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. Let's go to Dennis in Norwalk. Hi, Dennis. Welcome to the Pet Show.
Yes, Warren. I called before, and we had a dog named Roxy. I don't know if you remember.
No, you have to give me more than the dog's name. I'm sure I heard a lot of Roxys in my career.
Okay. Well, anyway, she was part of sheepdog and something else. Anyway, she had cancer. Okay, we took her to the vet. She's about 8 years old.
Yeah.
We got her. She was about 2.5, and very, very playful and smart dog. But we had to put her down at the vet because she had, like I said, she had cancer.
Yeah,
and she was.
I know it's such a hard thing to do, and my heart breaks for you. But you gave her the best life you could and the best care you could while she was with you.
Yeah, and then she was losing her eyesight also.
Yeah.
So,
it's a tough decision.
anyway.
To make. But I'm looking at my computer screen now, and I see, Dennis, that you have a new dog. Tell me about your new dog.
Okay, my daughter was looking around and went to different shelters and everything. And we came back, and this one dog we was going to get is already spoken for, which we didn't know. It's a Doberman. Okay, that's maybe about 2 years old, I think, or a year and a half. But we went to go, look at her again. She was, spoken for. So we fell in love with another dog. We took her for. They let you take her for a walk in a kennel.
Yeah.
What?
I don't want to run. I don't want to run out of time. So, what kind of dog did you wind up adopting?
Okay, a German Shepherd with, I guess, sheepdog. And they gave her a name. We took the name what they gave her, for the pet. Is Mia.
Mia, okay, Mia.
Mia, I asked her, I said, what does Mia mean? And she says, it means missing in action. I don't know if you ever heard that before.
As a veteran, believe me, my heart feels MIA every day, every single day. The day doesn't go by where MIA is not in my mind.
And my question is, with my daughter and I were, new dogs. She's only like a year and a half old, I believe, and we're just trying to train her. Okay, my daughter and they go to my daughter and my wife very easily. She does. Oh, by the way, it's a she.
Okay, let me do this. I got it. Let me take a break. Dennis, I want to come back. I want to talk to you. We'll get to you, Sylvia, as well. But, Dennis, I want to talk to you because from what I'm hearing and what I'm reading on my screen, you want to get the dog to respond to you. The dog already comes to your daughter and your wife, but not to you. I'm going to explain perhaps why the reasoning for that is, and maybe we can give you some resolution. Also, Sylvia, will get to you as well. I want to find out about your first pet, 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. I'm Warren Eckstein. You're listening to The Pet Show. Dennis, you're still with me. Let's talk about your dog. So you got this dog from a shelter. It's a German Shepherd mixed with maybe sheepdog. Now, it's about a year old. Do you know any and I'm going to kind of paraphrase. Do you know any background of the dog at all?
Do I know what?
Any background? Who had the dog before you?
No, I do not. They said
okay, well, let me tell you. listen to me. I don't want to run out of time, so listen carefully. Whoever had the dog before you, probably the male in the home was not as nice to the dog or not as close to the dog as the females were. Therefore, it's not uncommon when people adopt a dog that it might be more apt to go to one sex or the other, depending on previous abuse, or maybe not physical abuse, but even abuse by not socially getting together with the dog. So here's what you need to do. Obviously, the dog is responding to your wife. It's responding to your daughter. You need to take over the feeding. You need to spend a lot of private time with the dog. I know it's brand new and everyone wants to be on top of the dog. Get your wife and your daughter out of the picture for at least 15, 20 minutes a couple of times a day, and you do nothing but sit and talk to the dog. You feed the dog, you walk the dog, you give the dog the treats. Getting the dog to respond to you or build up its confidence with you is critical. Over the years, many times when people would adopt a dog and all of a sudden the dog would respond to the husband and not the wife, or the wife and not the husband, if I were able to trace it back, it was indicative of abuse that took early on, or neglect that took. Neglect is just as bad sometimes as physical abuse. So I think that's the reasoning behind it. I think you need to take over more of the socialization. I think you need to take over the feeding, the brushing, and the grooming. Not for life. You can give those chores back to them, but at least till you bond with this dog. Because I believe, from what you're telling me, that the bonding you did with males before you was not where it should have been.
Okay, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's so funny about the whole situation, what you said about bonding? Now, when she's in the house, she's actually would run and jump on my lap, on the couch.
Okay.
It's really strange. I mean, she'd come to me in the, indoors, but like I said, when we're outdoors.
Yeah, but that's just proving my point. In other words, whoever she lived with may have given her a lot of attention or been nice to her and calm with her inside, but maybe yelled and screamed because she didn't come back when he called her outside. Or maybe when he called her and she didn't come to him, he yelled at the dog, "Bad dog, phooey, what did you do?" These are things as a behaviorist I need to really delve into. But it sounds to me, the fact that she's responding to you in the house, that's a comfort zone for her. Outside is where whatever type of abuse took place or neglect took place is where it took. Very often, when a dog is not reacting outside, they never had enough opportunity to be outside. When they were outside and they didn't respond, they got corrected in a strong way for that. So they're all things that we need to take into consideration. So it sounds to me like you're on the right track. What I want to do, though, Dennis, is I'm going to put you on hold, and I'm going to bless you for adopting this dog. Suzette, we're going to send him a copy of how to get your dog to do what you want, okay? I think that will really guide him a little bit. But it's so important to notice exactly what we just had in this discussion. As a behaviorist, and here's where some trainers, and there are great trainers out there, miss it. As a behaviorist, it's not just resolving the issue. It's not just resolving the problem. Even in human therapy, it's a matter of going back to figure out, why is the problem there? When we know why the problem might be there, or try to guess at why the problem might be there, it makes the resolution a whole lot easier. And as you know, so many people get frustrated when they're outside with their dog because the dog doesn't come back to them right away. And when the dog finally gets there, they say bad dog or yell at the dog, or even worse. That creates the situation, the exact situation we're talking about. Inside, they're comfortable with. They've never been overly corrected inside. But outside, you might get angry at them because they didn't respond the way you wanted them to respond. So, by the way, thank you for adopting that dog. And I am such a firm believer in adopting and rescuing and trying to understand. And, the shelters have a really hard time also, because bottom line is, very often they don't know the background on the dog or the cat that they're adopting out. And they don't know the background of the dog or the cat they're adopting out. They can only speculate as well. That's why I believe that every shelter, and we're okay, but every shelter, every rescue not only needs people that do the rescue work and the shelter work and the cleaning up the poop and the talking and the socializing. They need a behaviorist, a trainer, someone who can really say, maybe this is why this dog has the issue, and this is the best way to resolve that issue. Do you know how many dogs and cats never had the opportunity to go to that beautiful, everlasting, forever home based on bad evaluations or not being given the opportunity or not be given the time or having a behaviorist or trainer go in there and work with that dog or cat. Make all the difference in the world. Bless you for taking that dog in. Sylvia, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to get to you. I want to hear about your first pet as well. The phone number here at the Pet Show, 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. By the way, if you want to send me a question, youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. It's open now, youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. Quick break, then right back to your calls on Warren Eckstein. This is The Pet Show. I'm Warren Eckstein. Great time to give me a call. If you have a question or a comment about your dog or cat's behavior, jumping, humping, digging, scratching, litter box issues, housebreaking, aggressive issues, you get the idea. If you have a question about your pet's behavior, great time to give me a call. The phone number here at the Pet Show, 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. Whatever the situation you have a question or comment, great time to call me. The question of the day, do you remember your first pet? Do you remember your first pet? I'm going to get right to you, Sylvia. When I took that break, my lovely wife, Denise, came up and said, hey, how about my first dog, Warren? So my wife handed me this sheet. So let me tell you about Denise's first dog, Sylvia, then we'll find out about yours. Denise's first dog was a dog named Stinky. Let me remind everyone, Denise grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. Stinky, I guess, was a common name. But back then, they let their dogs roam loose. I guess it was pretty rural in Omaha. Stinky was actually her uncle's dog, who was tragically killed in a car accident at 13 years old. And, Denise was an only child, so Stinky became her best friend, even though Stinky was a cranky old chubby terrier. Her son, Duke, lived next door, and they used to chase and play with each other. So my wife, Denise, grew up with a dog named Stinky. That tells me an awful lot about you, Denise. 866-870-KRLA, Omaha, Nebraska. But it's true that Denise grew up as especially a single child. Growing up as a single child, her grandmother was working, her mom was working, so Stinky was her best friend, and I can definitely relate to that. And what a great story, Stinky the dog. And I've actually seen pictures of Stinky, who, by the way, would wait for her grandmother to come home every day and meet her at the bus stop and walk her home. 866-870-KRLA, the phone number. Coming up, we're going to take a look at stressed out cats. We can take a look at Velcro dogs if we have time. If I run out of time, which I usually do, remember now, I'm adding a lot of things to my YouTube channel. Subscribe. It's free. YouTube.com/Warren Eckstein, or my new Facebook. It's not new, but this is the Facebook page I'm using most of the time. Facebook.com/Warren Pet Talk. Facebook.com/Warren Pet Talk. Let's go to Sylvia in Bellflower. Hi, Sylvia. Welcome to the Pet Show.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
It's absolutely my pleasure. So tell me about your first pet, Sylvia.
I was a young teen and about a 6-month-old puppy. We think she was probably poodle and terrier, straight up the driveway and decided we were the house to stay at. And my parents, who never allowed us to have any animals, begrudgingly agreed that we could keep her. We named her Moochie because she was always begging somebody for something, and she was my confidant.
So how long was she with you?
We think she was about 6 months old when she strayed up the driveway, and I think she was 14, 15, somewhere in that vicinity when she passed.
So tell me the importance, Sylvia. What was the dog's name again? I'm sorry.
Moochie.
Moochie. I love that name, Moochie. Tell me how Moochie might have helped or changed your life as a child.
Well, as a young teen, going through all the changes of, being a kid to being an adult, she just listened to all my stories, never talked back to me, but definitely was a listening ear.
It's so interesting that would never talk back to you. I was a really problem child. I mean, really, right through high school. I was a problem child, always in trouble, always getting into fights, Anyway, I'm nice and mellow now, but I wasn't as a kid. And so I was always, and my father was, a strong veteran, 6 years in New Guinea, fighting World War II. And so there were times where never physically abused me, but I was a little fearful of my dad. And so there were times where and later on I was kind of a latchkey child that my dog and the other animals living in my room, whether it be snakes and whatever, they made all the difference in my life because they just accepted me. They just accepted me. They could care less whether I had attention deficit disorder. They could care less about anything. And so it was. I really believe that my entire life, my career, my military, whatever careers I had, was really affected by my relationship early on with any pets that I live with.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So do you have any pets right now?
I do. I have a parrot at this point.
What kind of parrot?
I've got 6 Congo African Greys.
Now, let me ask you a question.
And a Senegal.
Okay, so the African Greys, they're the greatest talkers of all animals. They're amazing.
They're wonderful.
And I always tell people, if you get an African Grey and you burp once in front of that bird, he will burp for the next 50 years.
Absolutely.
They pick up on your words.
One of mine sneezes just like me. Thank you very much.
They're amazing. People have no idea how smart parrots can be. The hyacinth macaws, the blue and gold macaws. I did a lot of work with rescue parrots. In fact, I remember rescuing a parrot that had a horrible vocabulary. I mean, every word I don't know if I ever told this story. I took this parrot from a drug house in Queens, and the parrot was given LSD, and it was a horrible scenario. So I confiscated this parrot and brought him home. And every word out of his mouth was F this, you're full of S. It was a curse word, every word out of his mouth. Do you know it took me 2 years to change the bird's vocabulary? 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
And every once in a while, always at the most inappropriate moment, he would let out a curse word when my grandmother was over. But it's just amazing. I'm such a big fan of parrots. But again, if people are considering that, they need to educate themselves. It's not just a matter of getting a cage. You need to understand what has to be done. You got to miss them every day. You got to socialize them because they're very social animals. If you're going to commit to one of the macaws or a cockatoo, they can live 60, 70, 80 years. So it's a commitment you have to make. It was an old joke. I left my bird in the will. Yeah, because you do that because people pass on while their birds are still alive. So you have all these birds.
Mine are in my will. Absolutely.
God, they're great. So how do you find the birds as social as you found your dogs?
I've got a couple that are real social, and I've got a couple that could take it or leave it as far as interacting with me, but they're all happy to see me when I walk in the room.
You guys are bringing up so many stories for me to remember now, and let me tell you guys another story. You have time? Can I tell you another story? Of course you have time. You're listening to me. I got control of the microphone. When I first got married and I first got back from overseas, my first wife Faye and I knew each other. She was 12 years old when I met her. Anyway, when we first got married, the only thing we could afford was a studio apartment in a place called Long Beach on Long Island. Okay, it wasn't Long Beach, California, Long Island, and it was a really inexpensive studio apartment, and we weren't allowed to have a dog. And I didn't have a dog at that point, so we weren't allowed to have a dog there. But I rescued another bird that lived with someone that was being mistreated, and the bird picked up on how to bark from their dog. So I brought the bird to my studio apartment, and after it was there for a couple of days, the landlord showed up and said, "What did I tell you about having dogs?" And I said, "I don't have a dog." He said, "I heard the dog barking. Neighbors heard the dog barking. What are you telling me? You're lying. We don't have a dog." He said, "You want me to get the police?" I said, "Get him." He went and he literally, I'll never forget his name, Leon. He went and he got the police. They came up. They said, "We know you have a dog in there. We'd like to see him." I said, "You're more than welcome to come in." They walked into the house. The bird was on top of his cage, hanging hanging out, and he started to bark. The cops were hysterical. They walked out, never to hear from them or the landlord ever again. They complained about my dog when I didn't have one. It was a bird that was actually doing the barking.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you for bringing up that story. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's great. One of my African Greys likes to caw like the crows in the neighborhood.
There you go, hanging out with the crows. Great call, by the way. I'm really glad you called. And don't go anywhere. I'm going to put you on hold, and I'm also going to send you a T-shirt also that says "None of my friends walk upright." By the way, while I've got those T-shirts, I'm going to get to you, Paul, in a second. By the way, those T-shirts. Now, listen to me carefully. Two things I want to tell you about. The T-shirts now come in many different colors. They come in sizes up to, I think, XXX. So if you want one of those T-shirts that says "None of my friends walk up," and I got to tell you, I'm seeing more and more of those. And by the way, every dollar that's spent on those T-shirts goes to my nonprofit, Hugs and Kisses Animal Fund. Go to my website, thepetshow.com. That's the only place you can get them, thepetshow.com, and check out the T-shirts there. Yeah, the ones that say "None of my friends walk upright." Sylvia, did I put Sylvia on hold? I guess she is on hold. Phone number here, 866-870-KRLA. Before I get to you, Judy, and I get to you, Paul, I want to share this before we run out of time because it's kind of important to me. You know, and I'm going to post this also on my YouTube. You know, we often talk about dogs and stress. What about cats? Cats get stressed too. We often talk about cats being silent sufferers. So it's up to us as their guardians. This is stuff that I actually wrote for you guys this week. It's up to us as their guardians to take note of any changes in their cat's behavior. It's important to note that stress can really affect your cat's emotional as well as their physical well-being. I always recommend that we watch our cats carefully so we know what their normal behavior is like and note any changes as soon as we pick up on them. Would you know if your cat was stressed out? You know, years ago, we all lived in a more rural environment. Cats would roam and play, but now it's way too dangerous. So we need to make our indoors much more stimulating. Here are some of the signs of a stressed cat, okay? Number one, if all of a sudden your cat that uses a litter box regularly is not using a litter box. If your cat is becoming more vocal. If you're noticing compulsive behavior, staring at a fan, staring at a wall, eating less or eating more. If they're hiding. Once you've ruled out all these medical issues, then you could rest assured that it's something else that's going on. So these are all things: soiling, urination, decreased appetite. All these things can make a major difference. So I want people to understand, it's real important to me, because so many cats, they're not silent sufferers. They might not tell you what's wrong with them, but if you take the time to watch them every day, you can figure out for yourself. And every living animal deserves not to go through the stress and anxiety. And cats, you know, they're little, they're tiny, they're small. They may be a little independent, but I got to tell you, they get stressed out just as much as any other pet that we live with. 866-870-KRLA, the phone number, 866-870-5752. Let me take a quick break. Paul, will get to you when we come back, followed by you, Judy. Do you have an open line or two? 866-870-5752. No one else wants to talk about their first dog or their first cat, their first pet? Give me a call. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. 866-870-KRLA. Quick break, then right back to your phone calls. Listen, Karen, the animals that was with me all the time was Morris the cat. I didn't train Morris the cat, but Morris and I traveled an awful lot together. The only difference is Morris was in first class and I was in coach. True story, by the way. Anyway, of all the cats I've ever known, Morris was by far just so mellow. He was the perfect cat for what he was cast to do. Just the perfect cat. 866-870-KRLA, the phone number, 866-870-5752. We'll go to Paul, then we'll go to Judy, then we'll go to Ken. But right now it's Paul in Van Nuys. Hey, Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Warren, and blessings to you. Thank you I've called you before, and I want to thank you for all the kindness and the gifts that were sent my way. Right now, my he's under 2 years old, Fritzy, and he's healthy in every way, runs, eats, does everything needed. I keep him inside, although where I live, it's a converted motel years ago. So he likes to go out in the hallway, and it's a long corridor. Anyway, make a long story short, I noticed that now he has a little bump, a little red bump on the bottom of the lip, and I have an appointment for what I hope is an affordable veterinarian in North Hollywood. It's called Affordable.
Yeah,
And
well, let me
anyway,
tell you something about the red bump, okay? A red bump can mean a couple of different things, okay? It could be minor, it could be cat acne, it could be an allergic reaction to something, or it could be an abscessed tooth. So those are generally the three things that would cause a red bump. But I'm so glad anytime you notice anything like that, getting an appointment with your veterinarian is critical. So when you notice a red bump around your cat's mouth, as I said, it could be acne, could be allergies, could be an abscess too. So I'm glad you're having it checked out. But that's usually what it is, and it's usually something that can be taken care of. And usually, in terms of expense, I don't know what the expense would be, but I can't imagine it's going to be super expensive unless it's diagnosed something beyond that, which most of the time it would not be diagnosed at. So I think it's relatively a minor trip to the vet, if there is such a thing, you know?
He's very healthy in other ways. In fact, you know, it's I'm under so much stress. He's interesting when you talk about stress. When I'm stressed, he reacts. He runs up and down, and then I calm down. I talk baby talk to him all the time. He's under 2 years old.
What does it sound like when you talk baby talk?
It sounds like, "Come on, baby boy. It's okay. We're gonna go shiffy." That's what it sounds like.
Oh gosh, you know, it's you guys are the best. Anyway, give me a call back next week. I'm not going to send you something. I'm going to donate because we sent you stuff in the past. I'm going to donate to someone else. But give me a call back, Paul.
That's fine. You've done many kindnesses. Thank you very much, Warren.
Give me a call back in a week or so and let me know how your cat is doing. But generally, a red bump on the mouth, that's the what it definitely is indicative of. 866-870-KRLA, the phone number. We're going to get to you in just a second. Remember, I was talking earlier, if you listened to the show at the beginning, that Denise and I were kind of searching on YouTube, and I came across a movie called Deadly Hero, and I had trained the dog many years ago for a very affluent couple living in the right next door to Billy Joel on Long Island. So when I'm talking about gazillionaires, I mean gazillionaires. But I trained their dog. They were real happy. It turns out they were movie producers, and they produced a movie called Deadly Hero, a New York City cop movie. The first media I was ever involved with. So here's the cast. The movie was called Deadly Hero. I think it came out in 1975 and 1976. Academy Award winner Lilia Scala, she owned the dog. Now, the dog is only there for like 20 seconds, but it took a lot of work to get that 20 seconds. It was actually my mother's dog, which was a rescue dog that I found at Kennedy Airport, brought home to my mother. She kept anything I brought home, and I used that dog, who's also, by the way, named Smokey for that show. So Lilia Scala was the owner. James Earl Jones, one of the nicest men I ever worked with. Don Murray, remember Don Murray? Also an incredible guy. Conchetta Farrell, you ever watch 2.5 Men? This is Conchetta from 2.5 Men. And also, we lost him, I think, just this year, but it was Treat Williams' first movie. So what a cast. Lilia Scala, James Earl Jones, Don Murray. God. And Treat Williams, you talk about being intimidated. I remember I'd have to go to New York City. I lived on Long Island. I'd have to go to New York City every morning at 3:30, 4 o'clock to see if they were going to do a shoot, if the dog was going to be in that scene, or the dog wasn't going to be in that scene. And the director of the movie was a director named Ivan Nagy. Ivan Nagy. I called him Nagy, but it was Ivan Nagy. Not the nicest guy in the world, okay? I got to tell you the truth. There was a scene where the dog was supposed to bark, and the dog didn't want to bark. I said, he'll bark when he's supposed to bark. He said, well, maybe if I whack him in the butt, he'll bark. I said, maybe if you whack him in the butt, you'll bark because I'm coming right after you. Anyway, the dog eventually barked, but it was one of those interesting times, one of the first. And after that, I started getting calls for like models and TV shows and doing all kinds of shows. We'll talk about that some other time. I'll post some of that on YouTube. But if you remember the what was the most embarrassing shoot I ever did? I did a shoot for, oh God, it was a Brazil company with Maria Hansen. Remember the famous model Maria Hansen? It was, I forget the name of it. Oh God, I forget the name of the Brazil company. Maybe I tossed that. But I remember I had to do that commercial, and I had to have dogs in the commercial, and I was surrounded by a bunch of women in bras. It's a long time ago, folks. Tough job, but someone had to do it. 866-870-KRLA, the phone number. Let's go to Judy in Rancho Mirage. Hey, Judy, welcome to the Pet Show.
Hi.
Hi, how are you today?
Hello.
Hi, Judy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I could not be better. What can I do for you?
Well, I was going to tell you about my first dog.
Yeah.
He was a Husky Shepherd mix. We had him for 18 years.
God bless
It was the only dog that we knew. He used to go to school. He would walk us to school, and he would stay in the classroom as long as he felt like it, and then he would leave and go home, and then he'd come back and get me and walk me home. He was there so often the teacher gave him a report card, and I still have it.
That's funny. What a great teacher that was.
Yes.
Yeah, let me tell you about my teacher, okay? Mrs. Pollock, I'll never forget her name. It was third grade, school number 2, Oceanside, Long Island. I got to the school, and as I told you earlier, I'm not bragging about it, but I was a pain in the butt kid, and I started laughing in the back for whatever reason, and she came over to me, and I had my hand in my pocket. She goes, "What do you have in your pocket?" And I pulled out this snake, and that was my left pocket. There was something else in my right pocket, and so I got into a lot of, and it was only a little snake, maybe just 12 inches or so, but I got into a lot of trouble. And she did not give the snake a report card. I can guarantee you. But that was a great story. So the dog would go to school with you every day.
Whenever, he would walk us to school every day, and then come and collect us after school, walk home with us.
What'd you say his name was?
And Buster.
Buster.
He was a beautiful dog, yes. And in those days, of course, they could run free, so he would just run around wherever he wanted. I was coming home from work one day, and I was driving down a main, kind of a main street, and he was there waiting for the signal to change. He was that street smart.
You're bringing up all these stories. I've talked about this before. Do you remember Buster Brown shoes?
Yeah.
I trained Tig. Hi, I'm Buster Brown. I live in a shoe. This is my dog, Tig. He lives there, too. I used to watch it as a kid. I watched the original Buster Brown commercials on the Andy Devine show. Remember the Andy Devine show a long, long time ago?
Yes, I do.
Anyway, the company came back out, and they hired me to train Tig for the Buster Brown Company, which I did. And Tig and me went all over the United States and Puerto Rico, and we went to kids shows all over promoting Buster Brown shoes. But it's just incredible to me how amazing these dogs react with children. And Buster Brown, he was an American Staffordshire Terrier, so he's one of those breeds called a pit bull. Just the friendliest, greatest dog in the world. But you said Buster, and it brought to my head Buster Brown. I live in his shoe. This is my dog, Tig. I live there too. Actually, I have an autographed picture of Tig hanging somewhere in the. So I think they still make stuff. I don't know if they still do, but anyway, when not the show, but when the tour was over after like 10 years, and we did every I had this dog for a long time. The company said, we have to have him back. I said, I'm not bringing him back. This is my dog now. You might have paid me to train him, but I'm not bringing him back to you so you can use him for other purposes. So I wound up, the only time in my life I ever bought a dog, I wound up paying, I think it was like $1,000 for the dog I trained, and wound up, he was the greatest dog. He was with me when my first wife passed away. In 1990, Tig was in my house with me. I had my kennel and stuff upstate, but Tig was in the house with me. And if it wasn't for Tig, I don't think I would have made it through. It's just amazing what they can do. Anyway, I'm talking too much. I got to move on. What I'm going to do, Judy, is I'm going to put you on hold, and I am going to send you, Judy, a T-shirt also that says "None of my friends woke up." I know I'm going to get in trouble because I'm giving a lot of stuff away, but that's the way it is. Let me do this. Let me take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get to you, Ken, 866-870 KRLA. Yeah, I remember that movie. Denise and I watched the whole movie. I said, Denise, you're not going to like the movie. She says, I'm so in love with Don Murray. And I'm a big fan of Treat Williams, and he just died recently. I think it was a motorcycle accident. All I can tell you is of all the people I've worked with, and I've worked with a lot, Lilia Scala, Lilies of the Field, if that's who Lilia Scala is, she won the Academy Award for Lilies of the Field, James Earl Jones, two of the nicest people. I would sit there every day with James Earl Jones while he was getting his hair trimmed for the next shot. Quick break, 866-870 KRLA. Quick break, then right back to your calls on Warren Eckstein. Phone number 866-870 KRLA. I just remembered the name of the brassiere company. It was Maiden Form Bras. Remember, if anyone out there, I have no idea, but it was called Maiden Form Bras, and the model I worked with at that time was Maria Hansen and a lot of other models, and I was totally embarrassed. Anyway, just a reminder, before I get back to the phones, that I'm encouraging you to go to my YouTube channel. I am going to be making a lot of changes and doing a lot more posting on YouTube besides the radio show. Sometimes the subject matter I don't get to on the radio show because the calls are busy will be posted on my YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. Subscribe when you're there. It's free. Check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. And you'll start seeing a lot more stuff being posted there on a regular basis. The number here, 866-870-KRLA. Let's go to Ken in Agoura Hills. Hi, Ken. Welcome to the Pet Show.
Hey, Warren. How are you? You're a great show and great guy.
Appreciate that. Thank you. What can I do for you?
Okay, this goes back to 1978. As a child, I never had a dog. My parents didn't want them. And we, in 1978, when I was 34 years old, we moved out of West L.A., sold our house in West L.A., and came out here to Agoura Hills. And one of the deals with the kids, they were 10 and 13 at the time, they were going to get a dog. As soon as we moved out here, of course, the first day we were here, when are we getting the dog? They started bugging us. We had to put walls up first. It took about 6 months. I was a swimming pool serviceman for 54 years, and one of my very best customers was Alice Cooper. And at that time, his dog got knocked up by a German Shepherd that came up from San Ysidro. I don't know if you're familiar with West L.A. because you lived in Santa Monica. And dog came up a 400-foot hill and nailed Alice's little Cocker Spaniel. And we wound up, long story short, we wound up getting one of the dogs and named him Cedar. Can't remember why we named him Cedar, but he lasted 11 and a half years before we lost him. And he was a great dog. He was a great guard dog. I don't know, he had it built into him, whether it's a shepherd part of him or not, but it was enjoyable, about a 30-pound dog, and just an enjoyable time to have a dog.
Did you get to meet or hang out with Alice Cooper at all?
Well, yeah, I would see him when I did the pool. Briefly, it was an L-shaped pool on a hilltop overlooking the city, and it could be 50 degrees outside, but the pool was in the pocket of the L, and it had dark rock decking, and then the house was wood, so if the sun was shining, it was warm. Well, when he wasn't on tour, it could be 50, 55 degrees, and he'd be laying out by the pool reading books. He just plowed through books all the time. Real nice guy. Just couldn't stand up. Family man. You know, I thought when I got hard, there would be wild parties and whatnot, and strictly a family man, and they just worked out perfect. It worked out really nice.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. What a great memory, a great story as well. So, do you have any pets? Do you have any pets now?
Oh yeah, Lucy. We've had her for about 13 years now. She's a rescue dog. We've had, since we've been out here, my wife had pets all her life as a child, but like I said, I didn't as a child, but we've had either as many as 2 dogs, a cat, and the turtles, and you name it. The kids are grown now, but we've always had either a cat or a dog in the house.
Gosh.
But now we're in our early 80s, so when we lose Lucy, we're unable to keep a pet anymore, keep up a pet anymore. We don't have a dog. Out here you have coyotes, and you can't have a dog door, so you got to get up and let her out, and it'll just be too much. We've done our thing with the animals. Love
no,
animals.
Listen. There comes a point. There comes a point where you have to know. A lot of seniors have pets, and they have their pets written into their wills or what's the word? Not wills. It's not really a will. There's another word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't think of either.
What would you say, Alex?
Trust. Family trust.
A living trust. Yeah, a living trust. If you have to have, thank you, Alex. If you have a living trust, that can make all the difference in the world. And so many seniors that have dogs do realize that they need a living trust for their pets. Yeah, great story, by the way. I really do appreciate it. Ken,
Love the show.
Did your kids grow up as animal lovers because of that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. My daughter, she feeds, back in North Carolina, feeds raccoons. She's got pictures of raccoons coming up on her deck and eating. And then possum, the raccoon turned its back in, and the possum grabbed the pipe tin that the food was in and tried to drag it away. And she's a total animal lover. Like
you did a good job with your children and your dogs, Ken. A good job. Anyway, don't go anywhere because you live in Agoura Hills. I know it well. That's where my accountant is. I'm going to put you on hold, and I'm going to send you an air horn. So when you take your dog out, if there is a coyote around, and I love coyotes, I would venture to tell you that a day does not go by where I don't see at least 2 or 3 coyotes where I live now. Now, my yard is fenced, okay, and I have my 2 small dogs. But even though my yard is fenced, when Molly and Willie are in the backyard, I am back there with them. And most likely when I go for my early morning walks and it's dark outside, unless I see a group of more than 5 or 6 coyotes at a time, I have no fear about them. But if I do see a group of more than 4 or 5 or sometimes even 3, that's where they can be a little concerned. By the way, for those people that may not know this is baby rattlesnake season. So if you're out there walking your dogs, check out for those baby rattlesnakes. They're going to be all over the place. Stay on the path if you're on the path, and keep your eyes down. Know where your pets are all the time. Just another reason I'm not a big fan of those expandable leashes. I believe those expandable leashes, you can't have that control to see where your dog is all the time, especially if you're hiking or walking in areas where there are a lot of snakes. Now, where I live right now in Arizona, it's kind of warm already, and the snakes are out. Yeah, I haven't seen any yet, but they are out. But even in my yard that's fenced, I put up special snake wire around the bottom of the fence so that the snake. I hear every horror story, but you got to be conscientious when it comes to your pets. Anyway, that air horn that I just sent you, Ken. Hope you never have to use it, but I'm telling you, if you want one of those air horns, we're going to run out soon. Go to my website, thepetshow.com, all one word, thepetshow.com. They're on sale now, 2 different sizes, regular and XL. We never had the 2 sizes before. Buy 1, 15% off. Buy 2, 20% off. Buy 3 or more, and you get 25% off. Check them out. Don't wait. You may need them in a week. Check out the air horns at thepetshow.com. The phone number here, 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. Let me take a break, Mary. We come back, we'll get to you. We'll see if we can help you out with your dog and its food. 866-870-KRLA. The question of the day is still the same. Do you remember your first pet? Give me a call. Let me know. I'm Warren Eckstein. This Eckstein. Let me get right back to the busy phone lines here at the show. Let's first go to Mary in Anaheim. Hi, Mary. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Warren. Hello?
What can I do? Yeah, hi, Mary. What can I do for you?
Well, my dog has been diagnosed with kidney liver, and I did a second opinion, and it was confirmed. And they told me to give her kidney food. However, I've ordered it twice, 2 different types from the pet company, and he does not want to eat it. Can I continue giving her regular food?
I would not continue with the regular food until you have that conversation with your veterinarian. But did your veterinarian give you any ideas to get the dog to eat the special food?
Well, he just said to try another brand.
Okay, well, listen, he's got to go a little bit further, okay? I love veterinarians, but, he's got to go a little bit further. Number one, your dog has to be on a special diet. If your dog's not eating a special diet, what good is it for the dog? So number one, what the vet should have suggested to you is maybe try heating it up a little bit before you give it to the dog. If you heat it up a little bit, sometimes it will taste a little bit better. There are additives that are now available on the market that I'm sure your vet could recommend to add to the food, whether it be no salt, chicken bouillon, or something, whatever, to get the dog to eat, because if he's not eating, it's no good. He could also recommend that you go to a compounding pharmacist and get something there that you can add to the food, again, to add flavor to it. So don't just accept the fact that the vet said, try this brand. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you said go to a where?
Compounding. Speak to the vet first. Ask him if you can get something from a compounding pharmacy that will entice the dog to eat the special food that he's on. First, ask him this. Is it okay to heat up the food? Can I try a little no-salt bouillon? Or can I try some spring water from the tuna jar? Not the tuna, just the spring water. Can I try heating it up? Or can I go to a compounding pharmacy? He has to give you some more advice rather than just say, try a different brand. Because try a different brand, you're ordering it online. That means the dog's got to go another day or 2 without eating. So I would try heating it up first, then have that conversation with the vet, and he should be able to guide you a little bit further. But again, getting the dog on a special diet, the right thing to do, but the special diet's only good if the dog, in fact, is going to eat it.
He is doing the Kibitz, the Hills prescription diet.
Yeah. No, yeah, Hell's is fine. Hell's is owned. The Hell's company is owned by Colgate Palmolive. You know, Colgate owns Hell's. So yeah, they do a great work, and it's been around for years. Hell's Science Diet. So yeah, but again, what's the point if the dog's not going to eat it? You got to make sure the dog's eating it, and the vet should not only tell you what to feed the dog, but if the dog is not eating it, he should give you encouragement, things that you can do to encourage the dog to eat. Because if the dog doesn't eat it, what's the point?
Well, thank you. I will talk to my vet then again.
You have that conversation. Give me a call back and let me know. And you have a great day. And I appreciate that phone call. God, what a great call that was. But people don't understand it. You know, I love vets. In fact, I am going to be doing at my veterinary hospital, not mine, but the veterinary hospital I use here in Arizona. They have a special every year. They have a big luncheon where children from the high schools and junior high schools come in, and the vets talk to them and tell them about becoming a veterinarian. They asked me if I'd come in and talk to the students as well about, you know, fields that are available and what to do in veterinary field. So yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm looking for. I'll keep you posted on it. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a while since I did a seminar, but a seminar with high school kids, boy, am I going to be a little nervous. Let's go to Anna in Burbank. Hi, Anna in Burbank. Welcome to the Pet Show. Hi, Anna. Anna, what happened? Did you leave me, Anna? Anna is gone. Anyway, Anna's first dog was a Pomeranian. That's all. And the dog's name was Lucy. Give me a call back. I appreciate that. Let's go to Samara in Ma Vista. Hey, Samara. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Warren. Thank you for all you do on the line and for your service to our country as well.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
My first cat was a calico, and her name was Maisie. And she used to have kittens quite a bit, unfortunately. In those days, 80 years ago, nobody did anything much about neutering or taking care of that issue. At any rate, when Maisie got to be old, she dug a hole in the backyard, and she had 2 kittens, and then she was lying in that hole, and she never woke up. She died. Wow. So I raised the 2 kittens. I had a little doll's bottle, and I used to put milk in the doll's bottle and regularly give the kittens the milk, and they grew up to be adult cats. So that's my story about Maisie.
Now, Maisie, how old was Maisie? How old was Maisie when she had the kittens?
Yeah, unfortunately, she was only about 11 years old when she died.
Yeah. But anyway, she knew she was loved. She knew she was loved, and her kids were taken care of by you. What a great story. What a great story. Yeah.
And, to this day, my first cat, as an adult, living in California, I named Maisie.
After what a legacy! What a legacy on. Great. So, in other words, and you believe that this Maisie was being your first cat. And how old were you? An adult when you had Maisie?
No, I was about 6 or 7 years old.
Okay, now your relationship with Maisie at that point, because it's at 6, 7 years old, it's a tough time to go through, So what was it? Was beyond the terrible twos, but not far. What did Maisie add to your life that you can remember? In other words, what stuck with you all these years in terms of what you may have learned from living with Maisie?
Well, she was very loving, and she loved being picked up and sitting in the lap. So I used to do that a lot with her.
Yeah.
And I continued to do that even with her kittens.
So
but,
even though
I was so faithful to those kittens, I fed them before I went to school. I fed them. I used to come home right away from school, feed them again, and then feed them at night. So I fed them 3 times a day, I think.
Well, you know what I do now?
As I recall.
When people call me up, that was a great call, by the way. I appreciate the phone call. I'm going to move on, and I'm going to tell you a quick story. I don't know if I want to tell that story. I'm thinking about telling that story, and I'm not going to tell that story. The phone number here, 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. It's amazing what we learn early on from the animals that we have. And I remember that when I would go to a home years ago and they had a young child, I remember training for a dog in Roslyn, New York, and the people had two dogs, and it was Peanut Butter and Jelly. I just love those names. They always stuck out in my head. And the kids begged, we want to get a dog. We want to get another dog. So they got two dogs, one for each kid, Peanut Butter and Jelly. And after a while, the kids don't want to promise to do everything. No, I actually encourage parents, if they have a child, a child that's old enough, that they sign a contract before they adopt or rescue a dog or a cat from a shelter or even purchase one, preferably a shelter. And in that contract, it says, my responsibilities as the parent is to pay for the veterinary cost, buy the dog food, and take care of those parts of it. Your responsibility as the child that wanted a dog is to clean up the poop, brush the dog, bathe the dog, and take care of the dog from that perspective, and train the dog as well. So I literally made them sign a paper contract. So if the kids weren't living up to their responsibility, they could bring that contract out and show it to the kids. What a great learning experience for the future. 866-870-KRLA, the phone number. Quick break, then right back at you. I'm Warren Eckstein. This is The Pet Show. Clinging dog is becoming even more clingy and less secure. Barking when you're not near them, crying when you leave. It's common for older dogs to become more clingy and require a lot more reassurance. Why? They might be losing their hearing, they might be losing their vision, even some of their cognitive abilities as well. Some of the more common reasons for your dog's clinginess could be old age, as I said. They become a little senile. It could be an illness that makes them more clingy. When you're not feeling good, sometimes you want to be around the person you feel closest to. Older dogs, illness, even younger dogs can be more clingy. If they were abused in the past, sometimes this dog, when you adopt them, will be more clingy once he realizes that being around you is a positive thing. Anxiety can make your dog a lot more clingy, and you may say this 1,000 times, anxiety goes from one end of the lead to the other. Also, fear and stress. Pay attention. A vet visit may be required. But if you notice all of a sudden that your Velcro dog, a dog that's always on top of you like mine do, if it starts becoming even more than normal, then you should make some changes. Okay, what I'd like to do before we end the show, and by the way, if you want to give me a call, I start my national Canadian show on Radio America, Armed Forces Radio, as soon as I get off the air here. So if you're out there driving around, you have a question, same type of show, I give away the same type of gifts, write this phone number down, but don't start calling till at least 1 o'clock and let it ring. It goes to Radio America in Washington, D.C. That's a different number than this. That phone number is 877-725-8255. Also toll free. 877-725-8255. Similar to show exactly the same topics I'm doing here, except the calls come in from all over the U.S. So check that out. We'll take a look at that as well. Just a reminder, if you can help me and support my Hugs and Kisses Animal Fund, please, please do. We've been getting more people, more rescues, more humane organizations from across the country saying, Warren, we really need your help. We just got a half a dozen yesterday. Every dollar that comes into the Hugs and Kisses Animal Fund goes out pretty much immediately. We get them right out to these small mom and pop groups you've never heard of, but the ones that do the work. If you want to make sure I can continue helping these people, make a donation. Go to the website, hugsandkissesanimalfund.org. It's a 501c3, means it's tax deductible. hugsandkissesanimalfund.org. Read the thank you notes. Check it out. If you can help me help these small groups, every time you make a donation, hundreds of small groups and animals around the country will be saved. So please help me out. hugsandkissesanimalfund.org. Again, the number for the national show, 877-725-8255. And again, if you're not following me on social media, come on, let's go. Check out youtube.com/Warren Eckstein, youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. And I know I have a couple of different Facebook sites, so you can go to them. But the Facebook I really, really want you to focus on now is facebook.com/Warren Pet Talk, all one word. Facebook.com/Warren Pet Talk. And of course, if you want to follow Instagram, it's Instagram at Warren Eckstein. Until next week, give all your pets a big hug and a kiss for you, one right between the ears for me. I'm Warren Eckstein, and thank you all once again for listening to The Pet Show.